Hi everyone. Okay, we start our class. Before we start our class, as usual, you should do some exercises, right? Okay, so you can do some exercises, changing your body, incantation. Okay, I think you finished those kinds of the exercises. Okay, so we start our class. Okay, like last video, today we will talk about the question also. That question is very simple, easy. Normally, we are talking about that one. So the question is, we have the do you read the book like that, right? So we will use that one, okay? But we need to use the one things that is a go, right? So for example, do you go to school? Yes, you go to school, or maybe you go to work, right? So we will use that one. How do you go to school? You can say, how do you go to school? If you are the university students, you can say, how do you go to your university, right? And we can say, if you go to the market or the supermarket, we can say, how do you go to the supermarket, right? So this one is the question is how. So if someone asks you, how do you go to school, how do you go to work, how do you go to the market, so you can say, very simple, we can say, I go to school by car, or maybe you can say I go to school by bus, or I go to school by motorbike, I go to school by bicycle. Very simple, right? And you someone say I go to school by train also, right? I can say, how do you go to Thailand? You can say I go to Thailand by plane. You can say, right? If you are in Yangon, you can say, how do you go to Mandalay? You can say, I go to Mandalay by express bus. You can say, right? Very simple. You can answer by car, by train, by motorbike, by bicycle. But a little bit different. You can also say, we can say, I go to school on foot. I go to school on foot. Right? That is a different one, right? You cannot say by foot. You can say on foot. Right? This is a different one. And all of those things, you can also say another way. We have the two ways. One way is a by motorbike, by car, you can say, right? But another way is you can also say, for example, if you go to school by bus, you can say, I go to school on the bus. Very easy one. I go to school on the bus. Very simple, right? How do you go to Thailand? You can say, I go to Thailand on the plane, right? And how do you go to the market? I go to the market on the motorbike, right? How do you go to Mandalay from Yangon, right? I go to Mandalay on the express bus. You can see many ways to on, but a little bit different. That one is car. You can say I go to school by car, and another way I go to school in the car, right? We can say in the car. So someone asks you, how do you go to somewhere? You can say I go to by bus or on the bus, right? By train or on the train. But for the on foot, we can say I walk to school. You have to say walk. You cannot say other things. You have to say I walk to school. Or you can say I walk to the market, because your market is near your house. So you can say I walk to the market. Or you can say I go to the market on foot. Right? So we have the two ways, right? So for the question, how do you go to school? You can say I go to school by bus, by car, by motorbike, like that. That's one way. So we can say I go to school by car, and I go to school in the car. I go to school by bus. You can say I go to school on the bus. I go to school by train. You can say I go to school on the train. I go to school by motorbike. You can say I go to school on the motorbike. I go to school by bike. You can say I go to school on the bike, right? I go to school on foot. You can say I walk to school. So we have the many ways to say that one's two ways, right? For that, how do you go to somewhere, right? So I will ask you, how do you go to school? You can answer by yourself, right? How do you go to school? Okay, and how do you go to the market? Right? And how do you go to Chaitio Pagoda? Right? You can also say, right? And how do you go to Singapore? Very simple, right? How do you go to the shop near your house? How do you go to the ocean center? Right? Very easy one, very simple. So you can answer for the how do you go to somewhere. Right? Very simple, right? So I think you can understand. Do you understand the lesson? Today's lesson is how and go. You need to do together. How do you go? The same, right? How do you go? Someone asks you, how do you go? How do you go? You can say by something, right? By bike, by motorbike, something, right? Today's question is very simple and today's lesson is very easy. Okay, right? So we will talk about that one and we will write down on the whiteboard, right? You can see on the whiteboard. Okay, so in today's lesson, we willပြောကြည့်အောင်ပါဒီနေ့ lesson က how မိကုံးပါဒါပေမဲ့ how မိကုံးနဲ့မှာ how ကမိကုံးတွေကျေပြန့်ပါတယ်အဲ how မိကုံးနဲ့မှာ go နဲ့တွဲတဲ့ how မိကုံးပါ how do you go to school how do you go to the market ဘယ်လိုသွားလဲဆိုတဲ့ဟာမျိုးမေးချင်တဲ့အခါမှာ how နဲ့ go ပါပဲအခြားဟာမဟုတ်ဘူး how နဲ့ go အတွဲလေးပါဒီနေ့ lesson က how ရဲ့ go ရဲ့ဒါလည်းလို့တွေ့တဲ့အခါကျရင်ဖြေရမယ့်ဟာကဒီလိုမျိုးပိုင်နဲ့ဖြေရပါမယ်အဲ့တော့ by bike လို့ဖြေလို့ရတယ် how do you go to school I go to school by bike normally do you go to school yes I go to school do you go to the university yes I go to the university do you go to your work yes I go to my work so ဒီဖြေရမှာပုံမှန်ပဲဒါပေမဲ့ how do you go to school how do you go to work လို့ပြောတဲ့အခါကျရင်ဆိုတော့ဒီနောက်ကဟာလေးဖြေပြရမယ် by bike right အခုပဲ by car အဲ့လိုမျိုးဖြေလို့ရတယ်လို့ on the bike လို့လည်းဖြေလို့ရပါတယ် okay နော်ဒါလေးနဲ့သက်ဆိုင်တဲ့everyday recitation ကိုဆရာpost မှာပို့ပေးထားမယ်အဲ့ဒါလေးကိုပုံလေးကိုကြည့်ပြီးတော့အဲ့ထက်မှရှိတဲ့ everyday recitation ကိုနေတိုင်းရအောင်ဆိုကြည့်ပေးပါအမြဲတမ်းဆိုကြည့်ပေးပါနော် okay ဒါဆိုရင်ကျွန်တော်ဒီနေ့ lesson ကိုနားလည်မှချင်ပါတယ်လွယ်ပါတယ်အဲ့တဲ့ကိုယ်စကားပြောထဲမှာထည့်ပြီးတော့သုံးကြည့်ပါတကယ်ချင်းကိုမေးခွန်းနေမေးကြည့်ပါအဲ့လိုပဲကိုနေတိုင်းစကားပြောထဲမှာထည့်ပြီးတော့ပြောကြည့်ပါဒါဆိုကိုယ် speaking ကပို့ပြီးတော့အားကောင်းလာမယ်ကိုယ်စကားပြောရလဲပို့ပြီးတော့အသက်ဝင်လာမယ်ပို့ပြီးတော့အရသာရှိလာပါမယ်နော် okay ဒါဆိုရင်ဒီဟာလေးကိုထည့်ပြီးတော့နေ့စဉ်စကားပြောထဲမှာထည့်ပြီးတော့ကြည့်ပေးပါဒါဆိုရပါမယ်နော် okay ဒါဆိုရင်ဒီနေ့ lesson က how go ကိုပြောတာပါ how do you go to school how do you go to the market နော်လွယ်မယ်လို့ထင်ပါတယ် okay ဒါဆိုရင်နောက်ဗီဒီယိုမှာဆရာတို့ဆက်ပြီးလေ့လာကြမယ်ဒီနေ့ဗီဒီယိုဒီမှာပဲရကြမယ် okay အားလုံးပဲ bye bye